Once upon a time, in a peaceful, faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She was loved dearly by her father, but after he passed away, she was left in the care of her cruel stepmother and her two selfish daughters. They made Cinderella do all the chores in the house, cleaning, cooking, washing, and treated her as if she were a servant. But despite her sadness, Cinderella never lost her kindness. Every night she would sit by the window, looking up at the stars, dreaming of a brighter, happier life. One day, the king announced a grand royal ball at the palace. Every young lady in the kingdom was invited, for the prince would choose his future bride. Cinderella's heart filled with hope. She wished with all her heart to go to the ball. Her stepmother, however, had other plans. She laughed cruelly and told Cinderella she could attend only if she finished all her chores and found something suitable to wear. Cinderella tried her best, and with the help of her little animal friends, she prepared a simple dress. But when her stepsisters saw it, they tore it apart, leaving Cinderella heartbroken. They left her behind, crying in the garden. At that moment, a warm, magical glow surrounded her. Cinderella looked up to see her fairy godmother, a gentle and smiling lady holding a glowing wand. With a swirl of sparkling magic, she transformed Cinderella's torn dress into a breathtaking ball gown. She turned a pumpkin into a shining golden carriage, and the mice into elegant white horses. Finally, she gave Cinderella a pair of beautiful glass slippers. But the fairy godmother gave one important warning. The magic would last only until midnight. Grateful and full of joy, Cinderella thanked her and headed to the palace. When she arrived, the entire ballroom fell silent. Everyone stared in awe at the mysterious girl and the sparkling blue gown. The prince himself could not look away. He approached her gently and asked for a dance, and together they danced as if the world around them had disappeared. Hours passed like minutes, until suddenly the sound of the clock striking 12 echoed through the palace. Realizing the magic was about to fade, Cinderella rushed down the stairs, losing one of her glass slippers along the way. She vanished into the night, leaving the prince behind with only the slipper in his hand. Determined to find her, the prince searched across the entire kingdom. Every girl tried the glass slipper, but none of them could fit it. At last, he reached Cinderella's home. Her stepsisters pushed themselves forward, but the slipper did not fit. Then Cinderella stepped forward shyly. With a calm smile, she tried the slipper, and it fit perfectly. At that moment, the fairy godmother's magic sparkled once more, revealing Cinderella as the mysterious girl from the ball. Filled with happiness, the prince took her hand and asked her to marry him. Cinderella accepted with a joyful heart. They were married in a grand celebration at the palace, and Cinderella finally found the love, respect, and happiness she had always dreamed of. And so, Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after, reminding everyone that kindness, courage, and hope can change any destiny.
Once upon a time, in a peaceful little village, there lived a loving couple who dreamed of having a child. One day, the wife became very ill, and she longed to taste a magical plant called Rapunzel that grew only in the garden of a powerful witch. Desperate to help his wife, the husband climbed over the wall at night and picked the plant. But the witch caught him, and in her anger, demanded that he give her their baby once it was born. Terrified, the man agreed. When the baby girl was born, the witch took her away and named her Rapunzel.
She raised the child deep in the forest and, when the girl grew older, locked her inside a tall tower with no door, only a high window. Rapunzel spent her days singing, and her beautiful voice echoed across the forest like magic. Whenever the witch wanted to visit, she called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel lowered her long golden braid, and the witch climbed up to the tower. One day, a young prince was riding through the forest when he heard Rapunzel's enchanting song. Captivated by the voice, he followed it until he found the tower. After the witch left, he bravely called out, "Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel lowered her braid, and the prince climbed up to meet her. At first, she was surprised, but soon she trusted him. They met every day, talking, laughing, and slowly falling in love. But the witch eventually discovered their secret. Furious, she cut off Rapunzel's beautiful hair and banished her to a faraway desert. When the prince returned to the tower, the witch tricked him, and in his heartbreak, he fell from the tower and lost his sight. For years, the blind prince wandered the world, searching endlessly for Rapunzel. One day, he heard a familiar voice, her voice. Rapunzel ran to him, and in her joy, her magical tears fell onto his eyes. The tears healed him, and he could see again. Filled with happiness, the prince took Rapunzel back to his kingdom, where they lived together in love and peace. And so, Rapunzel and the prince lived happily ever after.
In a peaceful kingdom filled with blooming roses and warm sunlight, there lived a young princess named Rose. She was kind, gentle, and loved by everyone in the land. The roses in the kingdom blossomed wherever she walked, and her smile brought joy to all hearts. On the day of her 16th birthday, the castle was filled with music, laughter, and celebration. The king and queen watched their daughter dance happily among glowing lanterns. Everything seemed perfect until a cold wind swept through the hall. The lights flickered and a dark figure appeared. It was the Shadow Witch, a jealous sorceress who had been banished from the kingdom long ago. With eyes full of anger, she raised her staff and cast a terrible curse on the princess. Her voice echoed through the hall. "When the final bell rings tonight, the princess will fall into an endless sleep, a sleep from which she may never wake." Before anyone could stop her, the witch vanished into black smoke, leaving panic behind. The king ordered all the guards to protect the princess, but Rose felt the magic slowly creeping through her body. Her eyelids grew heavy, her steps slowed, and suddenly she collapsed into her mother's arms. Rose found herself in a strange world, a dream realm filled with floating lights, soft clouds, and endless roses. At first, she thought it was beautiful, but then she noticed the shadows creeping behind the trees, watching her. This was no ordinary dream. It was a maze created by the curse. As she wandered deeper, she met a small glowing creature, a dream spirit named Lumi. Lumi had bright wings and a gentle voice. He told her, "Princess, the only way to break the curse is to reach the heart of light before the shadows do. You must be brave. You are stronger than you think." With Lumi guiding her, Rose crossed magical forests, flew over enchanted rivers, and climbed glowing crystal mountains. But at every turn, the shadows followed, growing stronger and darker. Their whispers filled the air, trying to frighten her, trying to make her give up. In the deepest part of the dream realm, Rose reached a shimmering lake. At its center stood the heart of light, a giant crystal pulsing with warmth. But before she could touch it, the Shadow Witch appeared again, more powerful inside the dream than in the real world. The witch unleashed a storm of dark energy, but Rose stood tall. She remembered Lumi's words. She closed her eyes, placed her hand over her heart, and summoned all the courage and love inside her. Her body began to glow with pure golden light. That light burst forward, breaking the darkness and shattering the witch's power. The dream world shook, the shadows dissolved, and Rose finally touched the heart of light. A wave of magic spread across the realm, guiding her back to her body in the castle. Her eyes opened. The curse was broken. The kingdom cheered as Rose stood stronger and braver than ever. The roses blossomed brighter than before, and the sunlight filled every corner of the land. From that day on, Princess Rose was known not only for her beauty, but for her courage. The princess who conquered her fears, defeated the darkness, and returned with a heart shining brighter than magic itself.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new adventure. Thank you for watching.
In the magical kingdom of glowing cats, there lived a beautiful princess named Leona. She was no ordinary cat. Leona had long golden hair that sparkled with magical light. One bright morning, Leona woke up to find her hair even longer than before. She laughed softly and said, "Looks like the magic is extra strong today." But when she walked into the royal garden, she noticed something strange. The flowers were wilting, and the little birds looked scared. Suddenly, the wise cat Mira appeared and said gently, "Princess Leona, the magic in your hair is unstable. If we don't restore its balance, the light of the kingdom will disappear." Brave and determined, Leona began her journey to the moon spring. As she walked through the glowing forest, her long golden hair lit the way like a shining river of light. But deep in the forest, the shadow wolf appeared and growled, "You will never reach the spring. Darkness rules here." Leona stood tall. Her hair rose with a warm glow, forming a small sun of pure light. The shadow wolf stepped back, covering his eyes. "The light! It's too strong!" Finally, Leona reached the moon spring. She gently touched the glowing water with her magical hair, and rings of silver light spread across the sky, restoring brightness to the entire kingdom. Leona returned to the palace, where all the animals welcomed her with joy, and from that day on, she was known as Leona, the Princess of Light with the magical long hair.
Once upon a time, in a peaceful green meadow, a kind mother goat lived happily with her 7 little kids in a cozy little house. Every morning, the mother goat went out to gather food, but before leaving, she warned her children. "My dear little ones, be careful. Do not open the door for anyone. The big bad wolf is always trying to trick you." The little goats nodded and said, "Don't worry, Mother. We will be careful." A short while later, the wolf came walking to the house. He knocked on the door and said with his rough, scary voice, "Open the door, my little ones. It's your mother." But the little goats replied, "Your voice is too rough. You're not our mother." angry, the wolf ran to the honey cellar and drank a whole jar of honey to make his voice soft and sweet. He came back and knocked again. "Open the door, my little ones. Your mother is here." His voice sounded soft this time, but the goat said, "Show us your hand." The wolf slipped his dark paw under the door. The goats shouted, "That's not our mother's hand, it's the wolf!" Furious, the wolf went to the baker, who covered his paw in white flour until it looked soft and clean. Then he returned and knocked for the third time. "Open the door, my little ones. It truly is your mother." The goats saw the white hand and heard the soft voice, so they opened the door. The wolf burst inside. The little goats ran everywhere trying to hide. 6 of them were caught, but the smallest one hid inside the big wooden clock. When the mother goat returned home, she found the house in complete chaos. She cried out, "My children, where are you?" Then she heard a tiny voice from the clock. "Mother, I'm here! The wolf took my brothers!" The mother goat rushed into the forest and found the wolf fast asleep under a tree. His big belly was moving as if something was inside. She quietly opened his belly and all 6 little goats came out alive and safe. To teach the wolf a lesson, the goats filled his belly with heavy stones and sewed it back up. When the wolf awoke, he tried to walk, but the stones were too heavy. He stumbled and fell into the river, disappearing forever. From that day on, the mother goat and her 7 little kids lived happily and safely ever after.
On a bright and lovely morning, Little Red Riding Hood was getting ready to visit her sick grandmother. Her mother smiled gently and said, "Little Red, take this basket to your grandmother and remember, do not talk to strangers on the way." Little Red nodded and set off happily. Little Red opened the door, breathing in the fresh forest air. She held her basket tightly and walked down the path, humming a cheerful tune as birds sang around her. The forest was wide and peaceful. Sunlight shone through the tall trees, and colorful flowers decorated the path. Little Red felt amazed by the beauty around her. Suddenly, the wolf stepped out from behind a big tree. He slowly approached and asked in a soft, sneaky voice, "Where are you going, little girl?" Startled, Little Red remembered her mother's warning, but answered politely, "I'm going to visit my sick grandmother." The wolf gave a sly smile and said, "Why don't you pick some flowers for your grandmother? She would love them." Little Red loved the idea and looked at the beautiful flowers. She didn't notice the wolf planning his wicked trick. Little Red happily picked bright, colorful flowers. She was so excited to make her grandmother smile, not knowing that the wolf was running as fast as he could toward grandmother's house. The wolf arrived at the house and knocked gently. "Grandmother, it's me, Little Red." The grandmother opened the door, surprised. Before she could react, the wolf swallowed her whole and put on her clothes, waiting for Little Red. Little Red walked in with her bouquet of flowers. She stared at her grandmother and asked curiously, "Grandma, why are your ears so big?" The wolf replied, "To hear you better, my dear." She stepped closer and continued, "And Grandma, why are your teeth so big?" Suddenly, the wolf jumped up and shouted, "To eat you better." Little Red screamed and ran across the room. The woodcutter heard her cries and rushed inside with his axe. He caught the wolf, opened his belly, and freed the frightened grandmother. Little Red hugged her grandmother tightly and said, I will never talk to strangers again." Her grandmother smiled, and Little Red learned an important lesson. They all lived safely and happily ever after.